Hey guys, it's Michael. Today is your Wednesday, May 20th, stimulus check and stimulus package update. We have a lot of information to cover. We're going to start with key financial and economic news, specifically states reopening and the congressional meeting yesterday morning with the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. Then we're going to get into the second round of stimulus checks and a couple of important pieces of information there. But before we get started, yesterday I had a giveaway and I'm going to be announcing the winners at the end of today's video. So if you commented on one of my videos yesterday, please be sure to stick around to the end. I'll be announcing the winners within the last minute of this video. Anyways, if you'd like me to do more giveaways like I did in yesterday's video, then please be sure to like the video down below and subscribe to my channel. Anyways, let's jump right into it and let's get into the key financial and economic news. We're going to start off with states reopening. As of today, all 50 states have started to reopen. Some of them have eased restrictions slightly, some of them have started to open up completely. Connecticut will be one of the last states to open up. They're opening up today and they're taking off their stay-at-home order. They're starting to open up restaurants, shops, and offices. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes now that all 50 states have started to open up. Some states like Georgia have been opened up for weeks now and we haven't seen an increase in cases, so that is good news. Moving on is a church in Houston and in Georgia. They opened up when their states started to open up. However, they're closing down for a second time after leaders in the churches and other congregants tested positive for the coronavirus shortly after the churches reopened. So this is big news because if restaurants, churches, and states have to close back down again, well, that's not going to be good for the economy. So seeing two churches have to close down because people are testing positive, hopefully that's not a sign of things to come in the future with other restaurants, offices, states. Hopefully it's just those two scenarios, but we'll keep an eye out on that and see how that goes. Next up is the Center for Disease Control. The CDC laid out a detailed roadmap for how states should go about opening up. Donald Trump had implemented a plan called Opening Up America Again, but it didn't specifically say how restaurants, offices, sporting arenas, it didn't lay out specific details for individual shops and restaurants. Donald Trump's Opening Up America Again plan was simply for states in general and how they should progress opening up things more and more, so what the phases were. But over the weekend, the CDC published these detailed guidelines for schools, childcare facilities, restaurants, and mass transit systems. So this is important because Donald Trump's Opening Up America Again was simply in general for the states, and a lot of people have just started to open up without knowing exactly how we should go about it. Should we wear masks still? Do they need to take our temperatures when we enter a restaurant or a store? So now the CDC, they said it's a little late. States have already started to open up again, but it's better to have this plan now than not have it at all. Next up is the Congressional Budget Office projects a 38% drop in GDP for the U.S. and $2.1 trillion increase in the U.S. deficit. I'll get more into this in a video later, how it relates to us receiving a second stimulus package, but basically, the projections don't look so good for the GDP of the U.S. in the next couple months and maybe even through the end of 2021. So I'll do a video later on how this relates to a second stimulus package, what are the effects of it, and exactly what it says in this report. Now into the meeting from yesterday morning with Jerome Powell, who is the chair of the Federal Reserve, and Steven Mnuchin, who is the Secretary of the Treasury. Both of them were talking with the Senate in a congressional hearing. In this meeting, Jerome Powell and Steven Mnuchin expressed their drastically different views on what is going on in the economy with regards to a second stimulus package, states reopening, the economy in general. They both have drastically different views on what's important, what's not important right now. So in the meeting, Steven Mnuchin explained how the biggest danger to the economy is waiting too long to restart activity after 2 months in which millions of Americans have been sheltered in place, staying at home and not doing anything. He says that it is crucial that we open everything back up, and the biggest danger to the economy is not opening up now. So he believes that we need to start opening everything up again, and this is also why these CDC guidelines were not heavily publicized. He said, in quotes, that there is risk of permanent damage to keeping commercial activity closed down for too long. So he believes that we need to open everything back up, and all 50 states have started to open up in some shape or form. So we'll see how that goes with the economy, if we're going to have to shut anything back down again, like those churches in Houston and Georgia. So we'll see how that goes. And then on the other hand, Powell explained that the fear of coronavirus infection and getting the coronavirus is the economy's biggest hurdle right now. He said the recovery will be held back until Americans believe it is safe to resume commercial activities involving face-to-face contact. He says until people feel comfortable going outside, interacting with other people, well then that's going to be the biggest hurdle for the economy, because until we can go about our normal lives, go into stores, go into restaurants, spend money, and just do regular activities, well that's the biggest hurdle for the economy fully recovering. And he says the number one thing is that people believe it is safe to go outside and to go to work again. So as you can see, Jerome Powell, he says that people need to believe it's safe and that they won't get the coronavirus, and that's the biggest influence of the economy. And Steven Mnuchin, what he's saying is that the biggest danger to the economy is just simply not opening up. So you can see there's different views on that, because Jerome Powell says we need to be able to open up, but people need to think it's safe. And Steven Mnuchin is saying we just need to be able to open everything back up again. So now let's get into what Donald Trump said in a meeting yesterday. There's a lot of controversy over what he said, and we'll get into that in a minute. But first, Donald Trump told reporters yesterday that we're going to have a really good third quarter, and it's already happening. You see what's going on. He said we're reopening everything up. So Donald Trump believes that we're already seeing an economic recovery. I guess he's looking at that because the stock market's doing well and things are on the upward trend, so that is why he is saying that. But then what he said later on is that he sees the 1.5 million confirmed cases in the US in a certain respect as being a good thing, because it means that the U.S. testing is much better, and then he also said he views it as a badge of honor. And this caused a lot of controversy on Twitter and news articles and in Congress. This caused a lot of people to be upset in both parties. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. A lot of people were not happy with what Donald Trump said, and they criticized him for saying this. Okay, so now let's get into the new stimulus check. We have a couple of important pieces of information from the White House economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, also from Steven Mnuchin, who is the Treasury of the Secretary. So let's jump right into it. The White House economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, said on Monday that a fourth round of stimulus payments may not be necessary. He says, I think it is possible that we'll see a strong enough economy and recovery that we don't need a phase 4. It makes sense that he's saying this because, as I mentioned earlier, Donald Trump said how businesses are already opening up and the economy is doing better already. So it makes sense that Kevin Hassett, who is the White House economic advisor, how he says that we may see a strong enough recovery that we don't need more stimulus. Because if Donald Trump's saying the economy is doing well, it makes sense that Kevin Hassett, who is the White House economic advisor, is also saying that the economy will do well and we may not need a phase 4. However, let's go into this a bit more because not everyone is saying how the economy is going to recover so quickly, specifically Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell has been saying for weeks now, which I've mentioned, how he says we need more stimulus money soon. He's ready to print out more money as soon as someone gives him the go. Next up is the EIP cards. Those are the prepaid debit cards that I mentioned in yesterday's video and how they're distributing these to over 4 million people for their first round of stimulus payments. And there's important information here because yesterday, Steven Mnuchin, he showed the prepaid debit card to Donald Trump, and he said he thinks these debit cards are a safe and secure way to delivering refunds. So this is important because in yesterday's video, we talked about how these EIP cards may be a test run for a second run of stimulus payments, where maybe they would distribute stimulus payments on these prepaid debit cards, because that's what they've been talking about. However, what Steven Mnuchin says, he says it could be used for delivering tax refunds. So this doesn't rule out a second stimulus payment on these EIP cards. However, it does show that he was also thinking about using them in the future for tax refunds, not just for stimulus payments. So while they are called economic impact payments, they could just be used for tax refunds. And then finally, the Senate will not be meeting until after Memorial Day. They said they're going to be taking off from Memorial Day and maybe 2 or 3 days after that. However, according to John Kennedy, who is a Republican senator from Louisiana, he says that we may not be able to pass another bill. He says that he thinks that there's a less than 50% chance of passing another bill. So that's not great news. However, they're still going to be meeting and they haven't really started discussions on a proposed package yet. The Senate will be meeting, however, after Memorial Day, and I'll keep you updated on that. So anyways, that's what's going on in the world today. And our winners for yesterday's video, I'll put on the screen right here. So congratulations to all 3. Make sure to like the video down below and leave a comment if you'd like more giveaways like this. I can do higher prize amounts, more giveaways, so let me know what you guys think on that. Anyways, don't forget to get your 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400 when you sign up for the Webull investing app. 1 free stock when you sign up for Robinhood. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video down below, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.